Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep, not into the usual cozy mystery, but into something far grander, something that whispers from the very depths of our planet's forgotten past. The library beneath the sea, a legend too real? Imagine, if you will, being thousands of feet below the surface, where the sun's light is a distant, forgotten memory, and the pressure would crush you into a speck in mere seconds. You probably wouldn't survive more than an instant down there without specialized equipment. A place where perhaps secrets have been kept for eons. Tonight, we'll explore the possibility of a vast, ancient library, not on dusty shelves in a quiet town, but nestled in the crushing embrace of the ocean's floor, holding knowledge that could reshape everything we understand about history, civilization, and ourselves. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle in, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ocean, vast and unknowable, has always held a special place in the human imagination. From the earliest days, whispered tales of mythical beasts, lost cities, and sunken treasures have traveled on the sea breeze, finding their way into the quiet corners of our minds. But among these myriad legends, there exists one that resonates with a particular sense of wonder, and perhaps a shiver of genuine possibility. The legend of a grand library, a repository of all knowledge, hidden not on land, but deep beneath the waves. This isn't a new story, not entirely. Echoes of it can be found in the fragmented myths of forgotten civilizations, in the hushed conversations of ancient mariners, and even in the cryptic texts that have baffled scholars for centuries. It's a legend that speaks of an impossible construction, a sanctuary of wisdom preserved from the ravages of time and human folly by the very element that seems most destructive: water. Think back to the tales of Atlantis, if you will, not as a bustling city, but perhaps as a singular monumental structure dedicated to the preservation of knowledge. That's the essence of the library beneath the sea. It's not just a collection of books, but a silent testament to a civilization, or perhaps civilizations, that predated our own, holding wisdom that could illuminate the darkest corners of our historical understanding. The mystery isn't just if it exists, but what it contains, and what secrets it might reveal about our collective past, or even our future. The notion of such a profound undersea archive isn't merely a fanciful daydream. It's a concept rooted in centuries of fragmented evidence and tantalizing hints, scattered like forgotten pearls across the ocean of human history. Historians, cryptographers, and even amateur enthusiasts have tirelessly pursued these whispers, piecing together a mosaic of clues. Think back to the strange, almost alien-looking carvings found in remote island caves, or the peculiar astronomical alignments in ancient structures that defy known construction techniques of their supposed eras. Some of these discoveries, often dismissed as anomalies or misinterpreted artifacts, might in fact be subtle breadcrumbs left by those who knew of the library's existence, guiding future generations toward its hidden truth.
Consider, for a moment, the ancient maps that occasionally surface in forgotten archives, often dismissed as cartographic errors or artistic interpretations. These aren't your typical navigational charts, focused on coastlines and familiar trade routes. Instead, they sometimes depict curious symbols, unusual depths, or even land masses that don't align with our current geographical understanding of the world. Could these be more than just artistic flourishes? Could they be, in their own subtle way, clues embedded by cartographers who were privy to an older, perhaps even pre-deluge understanding of the world? Perhaps these maps, with their subtle deviations and enigmatic notations, are not meant to guide ships across the surface, but rather to point towards something far, far beneath the waves. Then there are the oral traditions, passed down through generations in isolated coastal communities, far from the influence of modern education or technology. These aren't grand epics of heroic battles, but rather quiet, persistent tales of the deep knowledge, or the place where the ancient ones kept their thoughts. These stories often speak of a time when the sea was different, when what is now submerged was once dry land, and a great catastrophe drove humanity to seek refuge not just in higher ground, but in the deepest, most secure places imaginable. Remember the consistent themes in flood myths across diverse cultures, from Mesopotamia to indigenous American tribes. While often interpreted as divine punishment, could some of these narratives be literal catastrophic events that reshaped the planet and forced a technologically advanced civilization to safeguard its most precious asset, its knowledge, in an ingenious, submersible sanctuary? These aren't direct blueprints, no, but they form a compelling pattern, a persistent hum in the background of human history, suggesting that the idea of a library beneath the sea is more than just a fleeting fancy. It's a possibility woven into the very fabric of our oldest stories. Despite the intriguing whispers and historical breadcrumbs, the idea of a submerged library remained firmly in the realm of myth for most of recorded history. That is, until the quiet, unassuming figure of Dr. Eris Thorne began his work. Thorne was a man of the deep, a marine archaeologist whose passion for the ocean was matched only by his meticulous skepticism. He spent decades poring over sonar readings, satellite imagery, and geological surveys, not in search of fantastical libraries, but of mundane, documented shipwrecks and submerged ancient coastlines. He was a scientist, driven by data, not legends. Yet even the most rigorous scientific minds can encounter anomalies that defy easy explanation. It began subtly, with faint, almost imperceptible readings from an unmapped trench in the Pacific. Thorne's instruments, designed to detect natural geological formations and known metallic signatures, kept returning peculiar patterns. They weren't the distinct outlines of sunken vessels, nor the jagged contours of volcanic activity. Instead, they hinted at vast, unnaturally smooth surfaces, almost as if immense, polished slabs were lying beneath layers of sediment. His colleagues dismissed them as sensor glitches, deep-sea currents distorting the readings, or even an uncharted, unusual rock formation. Remember how often groundbreaking discoveries are initially met with skepticism, sometimes even ridicule. Thorne, however, possessed an unwavering belief in his instruments and the data they produced. He knew that sometimes the most extraordinary truths hide in the most ordinary-looking data. Driven by a quiet insistence that something was amiss, Thorne decided to pursue these faint signals, initially as a side project, a scientific curiosity he couldn't quite shake. He deployed remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, equipped with advanced imaging and sonar capabilities to investigate the anomalous readings. The first images were grainy, obscured by the murky depths and the sheer distance from the surface. They showed what appeared to be incredibly large, geometric structures, partially buried, their edges unnaturally precise. There were no telltale signs of natural erosion or geological forces at play that could explain such perfect angles and expansive flat plains. It was as if something monumental, something built, lay hidden in the abyssal darkness. Thorne, the man who had always scoffed at fanciful tales of lost civilizations, found himself staring at data that slowly, inexorably, began to chip away at his hardened skepticism, replacing it with a growing, thrilling sense of disquiet.
The initial skepticism that had been Dr. Eris Thorne's constant companion began to recede, replaced by a deep, almost unsettling awe as his ROVs continued their methodical exploration. What began as faint, indistinct readings slowly coalesced into breathtaking, undeniable images. The first truly clear visual sent a shiver down his spine. A colossal archway, impossibly grand, emerging from the seafloor. It wasn't a natural rock formation, nor was it the twisted wreckage of any known vessel. Its construction was too precise, its material unlike anything he had ever encountered in the deep ocean. It appeared to be a smooth, dark, almost obsidian-like substance, yet it bore no resemblance to volcanic rock or any synthetic material known to modern science. As the ROVs ventured further, their powerful lights cut through the eternal gloom, revealing more of the submerged anomaly. What unfolded before Thorne's eyes on the monitor screens was nothing short of miraculous. There were vast, interconnected structures, not dissimilar to what one might imagine a city to look like, but built with a singular, deliberate purpose. Colonnades stretched into the darkness, disappearing beyond the reach of the ROV's lights, suggesting an immense scale. There were domes, not crude or simple, but perfectly hemispherical, their surfaces reflecting the artificial light with an unnerving smoothness. And most strikingly, there were what appeared to be vast, recessed panels along the walls of these structures, resembling immense sealed doors, hinting at interiors yet to be explored. These weren't the rough-hewn stones of ancient terrestrial ruins, nor the corroded steel of modern wrecks. This was something entirely different, something that whispered of an advanced understanding of engineering and material science, far beyond what was thought possible for any civilization known to have existed thousands of years ago. Remember how impossible it seemed to build the pyramids, even with our modern understanding of physics. Imagine a similar marvel, submerged, resisting the unimaginable pressures of the abyssal plain for millennia. Thorne's team, initially dismissive, now worked in stunned silence, their own skepticism eroding with each new frame transmitted from the deep. The anomaly was not a glitch.
It was a revelation. It was the undeniable presence of something profoundly artificial, profoundly ancient, and profoundly mysterious, lying undisturbed in the ocean's silent embrace.
The revelation of the submerged structures forced Dr. Thorne and his team to confront a profound question. Who could have built such a magnificent and resilient edifice in the crushing depths of the ocean, and for what purpose? The prevailing theories of human history simply didn't account for such an advanced civilization existing at a time when humanity was supposedly just emerging from primitive states. Yet the evidence was now undeniable. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was the product of intelligent design. As the ROVs continued their painstaking mapping, the sheer scale and sophistication of the submerged architecture became even more apparent. There were intricate designs etched into the smooth, dark material, complex geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with a subtle internal logic. These weren't mere decorations. They seemed to be a form of language, or perhaps a complex information storage system, woven directly into the very fabric of the structure. It hinted at a society with a deep understanding of physics, material science, and perhaps even forms of energy we have yet to fully comprehend. Imagine, if you will, a society capable of building with such enduring materials, not for warfare or conquest, but for the peaceful pursuit and preservation of knowledge. The prevailing hypothesis among Thorne's now convinced team was that this was a remnant of a pre-cataclysmic civilization, one that flourished long before the accepted timeline of human development. This wasn't a society focused on expansion or dominion over land. Rather, its very presence beneath the sea suggested a profound connection to, and perhaps even an innate understanding of the ocean's power. Their technology wasn't simply advanced, it was harmonious with their environment, designed to withstand the most extreme conditions on Earth. Think back to the subtle clues we discussed earlier, the ancient maps that seemed to depict unusual depths, or the oral traditions of the deep knowledge. Could these have been fragmented memories of a time when this civilization, perhaps facing an impending global shift, made the conscious decision to safeguard its collective wisdom in the most secure and ultimately most hidden place possible? It wasn't about hiding from others, but preserving for the future, knowing that what was above ground might not endure. This was not a fortress, but a sanctuary, built by beings who valued understanding above all else.
As Dr. Thorne and his team delved deeper into the mysteries of the submerged complex, it became increasingly clear that this was no mere abandoned ruin. There was an undeniable sense of presence, a subtle yet pervasive feeling that the library was not entirely unguarded. It wasn't the kind of physical protection one might expect, no armed sentinels or elaborate traps, but something far more ethereal, far more ancient. The first hint came from the unusual energy signatures that emanated from certain sections of the structure, faint but consistent, almost like a dormant heartbeat within the deep. These weren't residual power sources from long-dead machines. They felt organic, resonant.
Then there were the subtle shifts in the behavior of the deep-sea fauna around the library. Normally, the abyssal plains are home to a diverse array of unique, often bizarre creatures adapted to extreme pressure and perpetual darkness. Yet near the colossal structure, there was a noticeable absence of certain predatory species, and others seemed to move with an unusual grace, almost as if they were performing a silent, protective dance. Remember the stories of mythical creatures guarding ancient treasures? While no leviathans appeared to challenge the ROVs directly, there was a palpable sense that the ecosystem itself was in communion with the library, acting as its silent, living shield. One of Thorne's junior researchers, a bright but somewhat superstitious oceanographer, began to refer to these unseen forces as the guardians of the deep. She pointed to the rare instances where the ROV's cameras would briefly flicker or their sonar readings would momentarily distort, not due to equipment malfunction, but as if an invisible wave of energy had passed through them. It was as if the library itself possessed a form of consciousness, or was imbued with a protective essence, capable of subtly influencing its surroundings. These were not hostile attacks, but rather gentle deterrents, a quiet warning to those who might approach with ill intent. It was a challenge not of physical strength, but of intent and respect. To truly access the library, it seemed, one would need to prove not just their capability, but their worthiness to these unseen, perhaps even unconscious, protectors of ancient wisdom.
After countless hours of meticulous study, careful navigation, and an almost reverent patience, Dr. Thorne and his team finally located what appeared to be the primary entrance to the library beneath the sea. It was not a grand, obvious portal, but rather a subtly camouflaged opening, almost seamlessly integrated into the colossal structure, as if designed to remain hidden from all but the most persistent seekers. The doors, as they cautiously began to call them, retracted with an almost imperceptible hum, revealing not darkness, but a soft, internal luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Stepping, or rather guiding the ROVs into the interior, was like entering another world entirely. The air within, if it could be called air, felt different, impossibly still and pure. The pressure outside, which would have instantly annihilated any unprotected human, seemed to be negated by an unknown force field, creating an environment perfectly preserved for millennia. The initial chambers were vast, echoing with the silence of forgotten ages, yet filled with an undeniable sense of purpose. And then the books, or rather, the information repositories, for they were not books in any conventional sense. They were not made of paper or parchment, but of the same smooth, dark, enduring material as the exterior, glowing with faint, shifting patterns of light. These were not merely shelves filled with scrolls. They were vast, integrated systems of knowledge. Imagine not just reading about history, but experiencing it, or not just studying science, but comprehending the fundamental forces of the universe as if they were laid bare before you. The information was not confined to written language, but seemed to be accessible through direct interaction, perhaps even a form of telepathic resonance with the ancient technology. Some sections pulsed with intricate diagrams of celestial mechanics, Others shimmered with what appeared to be biological blueprints for creatures unknown to modern science. There were histories, not just of one civilization, but of global epochs, geological shifts, and even cosmic events presented with a clarity and depth that dwarfed humanity's current understanding. It was overwhelming, a torrent of forbidden knowledge that threatened to inundate the mind, stretching the very fabric of what was considered possible. Dr. Thorne, the man of science, found himself standing, virtually, within the greatest collection of wisdom he could ever have imagined, a repository that held the answers to questions humanity hadn't even learned how to ask.
The experience of entering the library beneath the sea was transformative for Dr. Eris Thorne. What began as scientific curiosity had evolved into a profound understanding, almost an awakening. The sheer volume and depth of knowledge contained within those luminous walls presented him with an unprecedented dilemma: what to do with it? The implications of revealing such a discovery to the world were staggering. Imagine the panic, the upheaval, the complete dismantling of established historical narratives. Entire industries and belief systems could crumble. Remember the societal shockwaves when revolutionary scientific theories like heliocentrism were first proposed? This was magnitudes greater. Thorne understood that humanity, in its current state, might not be ready for such a radical paradigm shift. The knowledge within the library spoke of cycles of civilization, of rises and falls, of advanced societies that ultimately succumbed to their own follies or to grander natural forces. It contained not just wisdom, but also warnings, a testament to what happens when knowledge is misused, or when humanity fails to live in harmony with its planet. He envisioned the frantic scramble for control, the potential for weaponization of rediscovered technologies, the inevitable conflicts that would arise from such a monumental power shift. The world, he knew, was not always a place of quiet contemplation and shared discovery. The weight of this decision pressed down on him, heavier than the ocean above. He found himself wrestling with an ethical quandary that few individuals ever face. Was it his duty to unveil this truth, regardless of the consequences? Or was it his responsibility to protect humanity from information it might not be mature enough to handle? He thought of the guardians of the deep, those subtle, protective forces that had kept the library hidden for so long. Their silent message seemed to be one of patience, of safeguarding, not of immediate revelation. Perhaps, Thorne mused, some knowledge is best kept in reserve, a seed waiting for the right soil, the right time to truly flourish. The library, in its profound silence, seemed to offer no easy answers, only the echoing question of human readiness. The decision weighed heavily on Dr. Eris Thorne. After days, which felt like weeks of contemplation within the luminous silence of the library beneath the sea, he made his choice. It was not a choice born of fear, but of profound respect for the ancient wisdom and a deep understanding of humanity's present limitations. He decided, for now, that the library would remain a secret. He would document everything meticulously, creating a comprehensive record of its location, its structure, and the profound nature of its contents. But this information would be secured, encrypted and entrusted to a few trusted individuals, to be revealed only when humanity had reached a point of greater collective maturity and wisdom. It was a gamble, a belief that the future held the potential for a more enlightened era, an era truly ready to embrace the truths held within the deep. The guardians of the deep, those unseen, resonant forces, seemed to approve, their subtle energy signatures around the library settling into a more tranquil rhythm. Thorn returned to the surface a changed man, forever marked by his impossible journey into the abyss. He continued his work as a marine archaeologist, but with a new depth of purpose, a silent guardian of the world's greatest secret. The anomalies he had found were subtly reclassified, the sonar readings quietly archived in obscure datasets. The occasional whispers of a lost library beneath the waves continued to circulate in fringe communities, perhaps even gaining a faint momentum, but they remained just that, whispers, never quite solidifying into undeniable fact. The library beneath the sea, with its immeasurable knowledge and its silent protectors, receded once more into the realm of legend, waiting patiently in the abyssal darkness. It remains there still, a silent testament to a forgotten past, a beacon for a potential future, its profound legacy simply being unseen, yet ever present in the deepest currents of our shared planet. And so the mystery endures, a quiet hum beneath the waves, a legend too real to be dismissed, yet too profound to be fully grasped, at least for now. The ocean, vast and unknowable, continues its slow, rhythmic breathing above that hidden place. Think of the gentle sway of the kelp forests, the silent ballet of bioluminescent creatures, all unaware of the immense repository of knowledge resting beneath them. Imagine the soft currents carrying the lightest particles of plankton, drifting silently past those ancient, enduring walls. The pressure there is immense, a constant, crushing embrace, yet within the library's timeless chambers, all is peace, all is stillness. The luminous glow from within casts no shadows, only a soft, inviting light that speaks of infinite possibilities, of stories yet to tell, and truths awaiting discovery. As the deepest waters whisper their ancient lullabies, the library beneath the sea sleeps, a dream woven into the very fabric of our world, waiting for the gentle awakening of a truly ready humanity. Let the soft hum of your own breath and the quiet rhythm of the night carry you into dreams of deep, silent wisdom.